welcome to another edition of anglos.co.il. Today we're going to be talking about finding a job in Israel. And with us in the studio is Richard Binstock from Recruit.il. Richard, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Great. Thanks so much for coming and giving us your time today.
Pleasure.
Just to start off with, just we get to know you, maybe give us a little bit of a background about yourself and the job market, the recruiting industry here in Israel.
Sure. So my background is I'm from London, if you can hear. I moved here 11 years ago, and prior to that, my work experience was in recruitment, working for a large American recruitment company in their London office. So I did that for 2 years. This specialization there was accounting and finance, and it was very good by the book recruitment. And then I moved to Israel 11 years ago, and I did not go immediately into recruitment. I was a worker, an employee working in the Israeli job scene, which the popular area or easy area to start in back then was online media, traffic, acquisition, people online and clicking on banners and things like that. So I started there and had a few jobs in that area of online acquisition. And I noticed during these few years that there wasn't the recruitment and headhunting industry in Israel was very different and smaller to elsewhere I had experience in the UK, in America, Europe, and so on, which is a much more evolved setup. And in Israel, I found it wasn't. And I always had it in the back of my mind that there was an opportunity there to offer my skill set and knowledge. And I did. At one point, I found myself between jobs and realized that was my opportunity, and the timing was there. Right. And I kind of set up what is now our recruitment agency.
Nice. Maybe just as an overview, we're sitting here kind of hopefully heading towards the post-corona era. How do you currently see the Israeli job market, more specifically for Anglos? You know, what is your feeling in the market? How are you seeing the current market? We're sitting here in April 2021.
Sure. Well, the good news, I think, is we're on the upward curve now. Obviously, we've had a global situation for the last over a year now. It kind of all kicked off in March 2020, and that definitely affected all industries, but recruitment was heavily hit. The job market was heavily hit, and as a recruitment agency, we're a luxury service for businesses. Right. You know, some companies prefer to hire on their own. There's obviously a cost involved, and so we were the first to go, so to speak, or to be put on the back burner in terms of service. So that happened. Everyone rode the storm in all industries, in all fields, and now I'm happy that people have adapted, companies have adapted, hiring staff have learned how to deal with it, and we're busy again. We've got a lot of new job instruction and requirements, and the market has recovered somewhat.
Great. So the market you're feeling is like on the uptick again in terms of the employment opportunities.
Yes.
Great. Let's take a step back. So thinking about finding a job in Israel, I'm sitting in London, South Africa, the US, and I'm thinking about coming to Israel, maybe making Aliyah. Would you recommend somebody who's looking to make that step, would you recommend that people start looking for jobs before they come? Or would you recommend that they're here on the ground? How would you propose that somebody starts their job search? Do you start it before you come or once you arrive?
So this is a common question. We get this every other day, or certainly regularly, and the answer is it is difficult to find and close a job remotely from abroad before you've moved here.
Right.
Various reasons. You rarely have an Israeli phone number, so people are having to do the video calls or WhatsApp calls. There's time difference. If you're in the US, you've got to expect a call at 2 a.m. and so on. Further to that, you're not in Israel, so you can't meet anyone, obviously. Right. You're not there to meet the team, see the offices. They can't read you. Like, obviously there's the video call is popular, but it's not the same as you and I now.
Yeah. Obviously, so obviously, sort of, especially post-corona, that first or second interaction would be normally on maybe via Zoom anyway. But ultimately, you're saying at some point there's going to be that meeting, that come into the office.
Sure.
At some level of that process.
So companies aren't fully on board with hiring people that aren't here.
Right.
Legally as well, that you don't have your Teudat Zehut or citizenship yet.
Yeah.
You can't pay taxes yet.
Yeah.
You know, all of these things. So the answer I give to people when I ask that is it's very hard, not impossible,
yes,
but very hard to find, interview and close a job before you have arrived.
Got you.
If the kind of grey area there is if you have a ticket booked and confirmed,
right,
you can
maybe kick off the job process.
You can kick off, you can do your research.
Yeah.
You can say to an employee, you can send them your CV, and if they contact you back and ask you where are you, you know, we would be happy to speak to you, but where are you?
Yeah.
You could say, well, listen, right now I am in London. However, I am coming in May 15th or whatever it is, especially if it's a shorter, digestible time frame.
Yeah.
If it's 6 months away, and this is a common question we get, I'm making Aliyah with my family in September, for argument's sake. I would love to find and close and secure a job before I arrive. Can I do this? It's hard.
Yes.
You know, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is not easy to do that. You can make inroads, you can make introductions. For us as an agency, we are unable to send the CV of someone who is not both of a citizen and in the country at the moment. So as an agency, we can't help that person.
Yes.
Can they use another channel and apply themselves directly? Theoretically, they can. Nothing stops them sending their CV to a job advert. Do they want to? Not necessarily, because then they kind of burn their name into a system.
Right.
That name and email goes logged into a company CRM as, you know, wasn't relevant. So 6 months later,
hard to reapply at the same
right,
place.
and then it comes up their name. Oh, it didn't work out back then. I can't remember why. And so you want to kind of take a leap of faith. I tell people, come. It is definitely now a decent job market.
Yeah.
We are happy to chat to people. I always tell people who are abroad at that moment who ask me that question, I'm happy to take a call with you and give you some ideas and peace of mind. I can't send your CV to anyone, but you can definitely learn what are your options, what are your kind of salary levels.
Do some research.
Okay.
So more you would recommend somebody to kind of do some groundwork,
make connections,
speak
like to agencies like ourselves or friends who live in Israel.
Right. So then you hit the ground, you start to have meetings with companies like yourself once you get here, so that all those kinds of things are in place already.
Yes, I definitely advise that.
In terms of opportunities, would you say for an English speaker, Are the opportunities still mostly kind of in that tech space, in the tech market, working either within the tech industry as a programmer or something like that, and then obviously the market to do outside sales, selling to English speakers? Are those still the major job opportunities?
Yes. Short answer is yes. And high tech, it's a buzzword. It is the umbrella term. A lot of people don't know actually the definition of high tech. It is an umbrella term of everything that falls underneath it. So every industry has a tech. Yeah. You have fintech, biotech, medtech. All the techs within the space are under the umbrella of high tech.
Got you.
And also, not to be confused, is you can work in high tech but not be a programmer.
Right.
As you said, all the sales guys, marketing, customer success manager, biz dev, often work for a high tech company. So they work in high tech, but they're not a coder.
But they're looking for English speakers.
Correct. So there are lots. Fortunately, there is a big demand over the last 10 years that companies have realized they can get native English speakers, not just English speakers, French, Russian, Asian languages we get asked for regularly. Can you get me a Chinese customer success manager and so on? And we try and find these people. So people can feel comfortable in the knowledge that they can come here from most countries, and there are requirements. Wix.com operate in 30 languages.
Yes.
The product that people know is operational and functional in all those languages. So half their entire company is customer support in those languages.
Right.
Hundreds of people in Tel Aviv of all nationalities. That's just, an example.
Okay, so what you're saying is essentially, even though you're coming from another country to a country where people speak literally a different language, there are advantages to coming here with native English.
Definitely. And, my wife's Israeli and I joke with her that I feel more confident about finding a job for an international than an Israeli like her. I mean, that relates to the space I'm in, and our agency focuses on the internationals.
Yeah.
But within high tech, I often joke that the Israelis are the coders and they build something, and then they need the international community to sell it and market it abroad because that profile does it better than they do. They're going to make spelling mistakes in their emails. And if you're trying to sell a product for $100,000 in that moment and you make a spelling mistake, most CEOs don't want that. They want it fluid, high register communication. And that's where we come in.
And I would guess there's some benefit, just as an aside, to, you're dealing with somebody in the States. It's nice, to pick up, the nuances and the language.
Nuances.
To have a local who understands the nuances and the lingo, so to speak.
And make references about the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Or Meghan Markle or whatever is the topic of that moment. Right. Have that friendly interaction, which is, as any person who's in sales or dealing with customers will tell you, is very important for that connection.
Got you. So now I've come. I'm now looking for jobs. Let's talk a little bit about putting together a CV. Is it important that my CV is in English and Hebrew? Is it okay that it's only in English? What would you recommend?
The answer is it just simply depends on the job you're applying for. If you are, and we just mentioned it before, if you are going into an English speaking or international related role, then English. All the companies welcome and want and communicate internally in English.
Okay. Most
anyway, especially high-tech companies that deal with abroad. All their internal company emails are in English.
Right.
So it's unusual for that to be a problem. Yeah. If you are a developer, programmer, and so on, then Hebrew is fine.
Okay.
And we get a lot of people with both. I would say if your CV is in English, don't stress now about putting it in Hebrew.
Got you.
Find out if you need to do that later,
okay.
but you don't need to kind of spend money or time on doing that now if you haven't done that.
Got you. And that CV, is there would you say there's a preferred format of putting that CV together, just very broadly, or does it really follow the norms of most other countries in terms of just a very basic format in terms of your personal information, your experience, your work experience, your study qualifications?
No, there is an Israeli format.
Okay.
And I always refer to it as a microcosm of Israeli culture.
Okay.
And it's less is more. So short CVs.
Okay. One page?
So if you're young or have only a few years experience, one page.
Yeah.
Condense it into one page. Don't need every volunteering you did at university or every kind of donation program you did. You just don't, they're not interested in that.
Got you.
So one page. If, you do have 10, 15 years plus and it's difficult to do that, then you can go over. You don't have to force everything into a size 8 font and squash it all in.
Yes.
But a page and a half.
Got you.
Maximum 2 pages.
Right.
But definitely no more than 2. So the answer is from 1 page to 2 pages, and that's it. But there are other things to factor in. And I said less is more. And just to follow up on that point, in Israel, as you all appreciate, you kind of go into a nice restaurant, but the front door and it's nothing to write home about. There's no lights or anything or flashing, and that's one of Israel's charms.
Yeah.
Once you get the service, it's nice, but that journey to get there is not always pretty.
Right.
And I always kind of muse that a CV and the job market does follow suit a little bit there. So it doesn't need to be all pretty and stuff. They want tachlis. They want the relevant information. And just to caveat that, things like months from 10 years ago, putting your university degree down. So June 1997 to April 2000. No, just put when you finished. 2000.
Yeah.
2002, BA degree in whatever.
Got you.
And you don't need all the months and January, and all the months are long words. Right. And suddenly if you add 10, 15 mentions of months, it uses up word space.
Okay, great. So I've prepared my CV. What are some resources that I can use now to go and find a job? So obviously there's companies like yourself that will assist me. There's LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Facebook, different resources. Are there other resources? Are there better resources? Other resources?
Definitely. So as you say, an agency is part of a job search.
Yeah.
I tell people that contact us and then a month later say, well, you didn't get me anything. And I say, well, we're looking for you, we're trying, but we're part of your job search.
Right.
Any effective, comprehensive job search is multi-channeled. And all the things you said are relevant. And I don't want to big up my competition too much, but there are various Facebook groups that we try and keep track or monitor them because we advertise sometimes or look at who else is hiring. So we monitor. Facebook is very big here. There's lots of Facebook groups with 20,000 members plus.
Right.
Nefesh B'Nefesh being a well-known one. They have the Nefesh B'Nefesh group. And website and core Facebook group, and then they have Nefesh B'Nefesh jobs.
Yes.
They will write to know that they had very high visitation for jobs.
Yeah.
So they realized, well, why don't we separate our information into having a dedicated job page, Facebook group, plus they have staff who do what I do, and they're funded by donations externally, so they are able to employ staff to help you in your job search. So that's one example. The Mizrad Klita, Ministry of Absorption, also similar to Nefesh, they have paid staff to help you. Both of these.
So that was actually one of my questions. That the Ministry of Aliyah and Absorption, they will assist you.
They do. They're not great at communicating it, and a lot of their information, weirdly, isn't in all the languages.
Yeah.
But they do offer CV writing for free.
Okay.
Career counselling. All free.
Right.
Retraining. They don't want loads of people coming here and just being on state benefits.
Right.
So they offer cooking. If you were into being a chef or working in a restaurant. Yoga instructors. They have yoga courses for free to become a yoga teacher. Things like this.
And them you would communicate with. That would be when you arrive in any. When you arrive in Aliyah, there's like a contact person in your city.
Pamphlets, and you kind of have to work out who to contact in your city. They don't necessarily reach out to you and you get a phone call, go, hi, this is Avi from the Mizrad Klita. Anything I can help you with, please let me know. In fact, I'll
So you've got to do a bit of groundwork.
You do
find
have
that person.
Proactive.
Yeah,
you have to be proactive.
Gotcha.
You get some, documentation and pamphlets when you arrive, and you have to find your person and your point of contact to speak to. And then there's some brilliant non-profits like Keep Olim. Again, not a competitor of what I do. Actually, the founder's a really nice guy, and they have a great resource also offering all these kind of services I just mentioned, like CV writing.
Gotcha.
And it was set up by an American Ole, and he saw an insufficient assistance. Despite all these other resources, there's still a dearth or a gap of demand versus supply of services.
Gotcha.
So there are other resources definitely that
but basically you've got to be as proactive as possible. Don't just drop your CV with a recruitment agency or you got to keep looking, use as many
multi-channel is the way I'd sum it up. Do a bit of everything. There's with a small payment, services like Gavahim, I don't know if you've heard of them, who offer classroom training on the Israeli job market, CV writing, interview technique. They bring speakers. I've spoken there in it's like a classroom format for a month or two, and you do a course, and you pay a small fee, and you get exposure to the Israeli job market, and then at the end they try to match you as well, and they offer recruitment services as part of their program.
Gotcha.
So that's another example.
Super. So another thing that often comes up, that I see questions getting asked on these kind of forums and things like that, is location. So a lot of people will say, if I don't have a job, where's the best kind of place to situate myself? Like oftentimes, people have issues, there's certain communities they want to go into, or if they have family, those are kind of other circumstances that you have to take into account. But generally, if you're coming here as a family, some people always ask, where do I want to locate myself?
So as you said, if you're completely neutral of other factors, and if you put family or connections aside, religious level aside, everything, try to shelve that, and you've got a completely blank slate.
Yes.
Then the things to bear in mind are obviously Tel Aviv and the center are popular areas for employment. There's no denying that. However, there is a lot of action elsewhere.
Okay.
The government is very much in a direction now of encouraging diversification of the economy into other places.
So getting people to move out of the centre.
Correct. They don't want everyone in. It's like everyone in Manhattan. Everyone wants to go to LA. Everyone wants to be in central London. And then the prices of accommodation are crazy.
Yeah.
And no one can afford to be there. Young people can't afford to be there. So some people suffer. So most countries, and certainly in Israel, there is an intention, an effort to improve opportunities elsewhere. And the current program here is in the north. They're trying to move things in the north. There's a great high-tech development in Beersheba in the south.
Right.
Part of the university there, they have a lot of young talent.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, there's young people living there, graduating there. Why do they have to then leave and find a job elsewhere with their skills? So you don't have to be in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, you know? Right. So again, if you've got a clean slate, then you should research a little bit more about more affordable areas where investment is happening.
Yes.
Which, you know, is a small, we're in a small country, so it can be in lots of different places.
Got you. So something else that I see often comes up is there's a lot of chatter and talk about your age when you come. There's talk about, you know, that it's a lot harder to find a first job in Israel over the age of 50, for example. Do you find in your kind of sphere that age is relative to somebody's job seeking success?
Sadly, yes. Okay. Is the short answer. And it is, you know, it can be a whole conversation for another time. It is a challenge. It is a problem. I'm sure it's a problem globally. Ageism exists. Right. No doubt about it. I'd like to think a lot of companies I speak to do want diversification. These days, people want to balance it up with as many women, coders and things that are not necessarily associated with certain profiles. Right. There is an intention for balance of diversification, but age is a factor, especially if you're going for jobs where aren't other, you know, younger junior people are also applying. Yes. And they're cheaper.
Sort of more entry level.
Correct. The term young and hungry. Right. This is something we get a lot, and I know what they want and I know what they mean, and we give everyone a chance. We speak to every candidate. We send every candidate. Okay. We let that decision. We're the middleman. Yeah. So we let that decision. You know, our hands we are clean of any decision by a company.
So you wouldn't hold somebody back.
Absolutely not. Quite the opposite. We get to find out the opinion of a company by trying to send different profiles.
Gotcha.
But unfortunately, it's no coincidence that a lot of knockbacks do come from and they use the term overqualified.
Okay, yeah.
Or not the right fit, not the right team fit. If you've got to fight a team of sales guys who are all 28, and you send a 50-year-old, he might be a nice guy. He might be able to do the job fine.
Right.
You and me would probably get knocked back. But yeah, the team fit, overqualified, will be seeking another job in a year. These kind of common terms come, and you know what you can't change someone's opinion. It's hard. Yeah. We do our best. We represent everyone. And try, as I said, to test everyone. But it is a challenge. How do you deal with that? You know, if that's your next question, it's not easy. Right. But you just there are companies that are flexible. Right. You know, there's thousands of companies here, and Some are have the hiring managers are of that demographic and therefore are more sympathetic to other people who they don't.
Or you may bring a certain skill to the table once you get in the door.
Bring a lot of value
that maybe they like, and so there are opportunities.
Very, very much so. You obviously, more experienced people offer a lot of different value and bring a lot to the table.
Super. Do you find? Tell us maybe from your experience, are there sort of common mistakes, common misconceptions that Anglos have when, in terms of looking for a job here, things that you've picked up over time?
Yeah, I would say yes. Not deploying your personal network enough, I think is a common one, because there's a certain... I don't think embarrassment is the right word, a reluctance. People come here and most people want their peers and friends to feel like they're in a good space and doing well, and there's a certain reluctance to ask for help.
A certain pride almost, because
something
you don't
like
think
that.
I've made Aliyah and now I'm battling to find a job. Like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Don't be afraid, and there's specific reasons for that. Aside from obviously it's helpful and your own network, however big or small it is, are living here, they get a fee for bringing someone in. The refer a friend is my biggest competition.
Within companies, people actually get paid to if you end up employing somebody.
Rather than a company pay someone like me,
right?
They would far rather pay a smaller fee. One, it's a smaller fee, and two, they're rewarding their own staff.
Got you.
So they pay a fee to their own staff for bringing in someone. And obviously the company likes that, it's cheaper, and that person is effectively already screened and vetoed and vouched for by one of their own.
Got you. That's actually a good point that you raised, because something that in my time here and talking to people in the job search market is it always seems a lot easier to find a job when it comes through a referral. So what I mean by that, if I go onto LinkedIn and I put my CV and it comes through as another CV, whereas if Richard walks into HR office and he says, listen, I've got a friend who's got certain skills, referrals always seem to be get you a lot further here in terms of
100%. And you're absolutely right what you just said. You touched on the main point. If you apply on a job advert like LinkedIn, you're one of 100, sometimes 200 people, and some 1 or 2 HR people. How much attention are they going to give you on your CV? Either 0. Do you know the average time a person looks at a resume for?
I don't, but you're going to tell me.
It's around 12 seconds.
Right.
12 seconds is apparently the average time your resume gets looked at.
Right.
But if someone comes into your office and says, listen, my friend wants to apply to this job, I'm vouching for him or her. You're going to get more than the 12 seconds, and you'll definitely get more than the 0 seconds that a lot of people get.
Your name's going to come up, you're going to bring it to somebody's attention.
You're already vouched for. So, already this person, the hiring manager knows some basic things are met. The person's in Israel, coming to Israel. The person speaks the correct language. There's already some things that are not filtered in job adverts. You get on a job advert, you get people applying from all over the world who want to move to Israel from, less developed countries who are trying to. We put a job advert out and we get CVs from all over. We get WhatsApp messages from these foreign phone numbers going, "Hey, can you get me a job in Israel?" And we're like, well, not really, no. So a lot of the headache, that initial headache and initial vetting is already taken out of the equation, and that is big.
So in other words, as you alluded to in the beginning, go go meet people.
And friends of friends.
Make friends, go to parties. If you go to shul, make friends, connect with people, and let people know that you're looking for a job.
Don't be afraid to let people know you're looking for a job. Would be the summary
of
that point.
Yeah,
definitely.
In terms of so now I've got my foot in the door. Somebody's noticed my CV. You've got me an opportunity. Are there important things that you feel are unique to this market in terms of the interview process? Obviously, a lot of it's maybe that for example, the first, like we were talking before, that first interview may be on Zoom. Are there certain things that I should remember or mistakes that people are making in that interview process? When I go to the interview, should I wear a jacket and tie? Israel's a lot more relaxed. Are there certain things to remember in that interview process?
Okay, so first off, no need for a tie. I've barely in 11 years seen anyone wear a tie. Only when Prince William actually came to Israel, and I saw on the news they took him to the beach of Tel Aviv, and all these add-on guys, all the entourage, these poor guys were all in suits and ties in July on the beach in Tel Aviv, and all I could think of was, God, you had to go out and buy a tie for this one day. But no, you don't need, like we are now, shirts, no ties, no jackets is absolutely fine.
Okay.
Learn, and this comes back to the CV part, put in the relevant buzzwords.
Yes.
B2B, B2C, these are the EMEA, US market, numbers. They like numbers. If you're applying for a customer speaking or facing job, what were you responsible for? And if you weren't really, what were you exposed to?
Yeah.
If you were just customer service and you didn't really sell anything, but you were speaking to customers who were paying X, Y, and Z, then find a way to deal with that. Customer support for high net worth customers who were spending 50 grand a month or whatever. Find a way to reflect, you're not lying, but find a way to be creative. And put in those buzzwords. If you're applying for a cybersecurity job, and you've never done cybersecurity, put in things like, were you ever involved in IT security or logins or passwords or anything that can relate to that? Gotcha. So that's a common mistake. Just to answer what you were saying about mistakes, it can start the CV stage.
Yes.
And we didn't cover that earlier, but make your CV relevant.
Okay.
And take out the irrelevance. If you were a waiter 20 years ago, you don't need that. And we said that before. Keep it relevant and tachlas.
Yes.
You were front desk at a health club in your hometown. It's not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
And once we're past that stage, things to note. Look up, and it happens. It doesn't happen. It fails to happen too often. Look up the guy you're meeting.
Yeah.
If you can see you've got something in common with him, or he is from Joburg or did a degree, a master's 10 years ago in New York.
Find something that you can relate to.
Make a connection. Yeah. Make a connection. Who is he? Where did they work beforehand?
Yeah.
So on. So, do your due diligence.
Do some homework about the company, sense. I would imagine.
Yeah, but not just their website.
Yeah.
Look them up on Crunchbase. Look them up, which is a common directory. Tells you about funding. Do they have funding?
Yeah.
Have they had $40 million in funding? Are they in the news? Look them up on the tech magazines. Yeah. No Camels, TechCrunch.com. Various sources to research a company beyond just their website. People think, I'll read them up. I'll read their website. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Right.
Were they in the news? Were they on Globes?
Yeah.
Did they lay people off because of Corona? Glassdoor, what are other staff saying? Glassdoor is quite a popular portal now for what staff say about a company.
Their own company.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is there high turnover? You know, maybe you could say, listen, I hope you don't mind. I saw that there's been a bit of changes recently.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that? Was it Corona related? You know, so it sounds like a common sense research the company, but break that down. Gotcha. You know, do more than the minimum.
How many interviews generally would one go through in the tech space to finally get that job? How long and how many interviews does that process generally take?
It's a bit of a how long's a piece of string. We've had people offered on the spot.
Okay.
Once upon a time, I got offered on the same day. They moved me from first interview. As not to say I got the job in one interview, that's not true. They asked me to wait because they wanted to check if everyone's available. Yes. And this was before the days of everyone working from home or a lot of people not available. But they say, listen, you know, well done. Just wait here a second, let me see if Shimrit's available. And then in my case, that each person was available. And I met 3 people and it turned out to be a 1-day marathon. Yeah. So it can happen quickly is my point. Or it can be a very long, painful, drawn out thing. Right. Big companies, Amazon, for example, they do self-assessments, they do meet other staff, not senior, like just other equals to get their opinion. And it's I think like a 2-month process, because they are obviously a very sought after, well-known name and an opportunity most people wouldn't turn down, and they treat it like getting into like Harvard. So that's a long drawn out. So it's very hard to say exactly, but
it would just depend on the company.
It does.
And the position, I would guess.
In general, I'd like to say around 3 weeks from if a company is genuinely actively hiring. And you've applied, you know, it's a stage a week over 3 weeks.
Gotcha. And this whole process would be, you know, for the English speaker, this whole process would be in English, and they would conduct the interviews comfortably.
100% in English.
And it's all.
If you don't speak Hebrew, no one's gonna put someone in front of you who doesn't speak any English or your language, and see how you get on.
So you don't have to worry that you're going to be at some point down the interview process, you're going to be confronted by somebody at a higher level who's not necessarily an English speaker.
No, but a quick kind of caveat to that is a friend of mine just got a job at TikTok.
Okay.
TikTok are well known, right. And not many people know they have a small office here in Tel Aviv, and they're owned by a Chinese company. Okay. Yeah. They are a big Chinese company. And during his process, he had a Zoom interview with a Chinese HR woman, and he claims she barely spoke a word of English.
And he didn't ever see a
And he thought he fluffed it. He thought, I've choked this, And the reality is he actually did get through. Okay. And she obviously just wanted to make sure he was presentable and communicated well and stuff, but her English, he claims, was very little, next to zero, and he got the job and he works there now and he's happy. But you asked me that, made me think of that, but the answer is that's an anomaly. It's 99% you're going to be comfortable interviewing in English.
The other point that comes up often from what I've heard is this whole thing about they always ask you either to rule out people or to get a sense of sort of where you're at in terms of salary expectations. It's a famous question. What are your salary expectations?
Yeah.
I've heard it's always better to give yourself a ballpark. What would you recommend if somebody asked me, for example, about my salary expectations?
Yeah, that's obviously a common question. It's a bit of a minefield, and we get asked that a lot. So my answer is one of the advantages of having an agency like us involved is you get the behind the scenes information.
Right.
So we know their budget, we know their range. If it's 15 to 18,000 shekels a month, and obviously worth mentioning if someone's watching who is not familiar with how it works in Israel, it's a monthly salary. we know that, and we kind of, if someone's progressing in a process,
yes,
we advise them how to answer that question based on that budget. Correct. Yeah. So that's definitely an advantage when people say, well, why would I use an agency and not just do it myself? The behind the scenes information is really helpful, like almost critical.
Right.
If you don't have that and you're doing it on your own, I find just try to be honest, try to research as best you can what you think it's paying.
What the market related.
Correct, market rate. There are ways to find out,
right,
and keep it sensible. Another way is if you are in Israel now, right, and you have or had a job previously, use that.
Right.
I was on 12,000 shekels a month in my last job, or I am on 12,000 shekels, and therefore I'm interviewing for jobs paying 15.
Right.
So bump it up 20%, whatever it is, and use, I always say fact is far more important than opinion in anything.
Yeah.
You know, if you're having a debate of politics with someone, you know, fact, not I think so-and-so should do that, you know, and in this conversation, in this situation, I am on, or I was on.
Yeah.
No one cares if you go, I want 15,000 shekels a month. Well, I don't care what you want.
Right.
Like I care what's right.
Yes.
And what suits. So use fact or phrase it factually.
Yes.
I'm interviewing for.
Yes.
You know, that's the easiest way. I'm interviewing for jobs paying 15 to 16,000 shekels a month. And therefore, whether the person thinks you're worth it or not, you've told them that you're actually in other conversations for that money, right, and they can take it or leave it kind of thing. So research, use kind of solid statements like that. Don't just pull numbers out the air and don't say I want. And if possible, have behind the scenes help or agency help advising you of the budget. Therefore, we let people stay in the budget, obviously. Right.
Richard, maybe just to close off, is there something that we haven't touched on, some useful tips or information that you would, put out there that would be helpful for a job seeker in Israel?
Yeah, one thing we didn't cover yet, on your CV, a common mistake. I just see it, I would say, every day. And this can be a senior CEO who was earning $200,000 a year,
right,
will still make this mistake on his or her CV. Is if you've had more than one job at the same company.
Okay.
Right? So you've got your CV here, and you put HSBC manager of international wealth management. Right. And then you got promoted. You got another job at HSBC.
Okay.
And what everyone does, or 90% of people do, they'll put HSBC again.
Okay.
2000 to 2002, and then another job.
Okay.
And then if they had another job, next job, HSBC, 2002 to 2005.
So they'd have a whole list of the same.
Correct.
company.
And at a quick glance, bearing in mind, not everyone's reading. I mentioned before, people have a very few seconds on your CV.
Seconds.
Right? A quick glance, it looks like people might not read the company name each time.
Yes.
So it looks like you moved around.
Right, and they don't want somebody who jumps around.
Correct. Not so. You actually turn something really advantageous into a problem.
So how do you show somebody then?
Easily.
Look, I progressed.
HSBC.
I was so good. I progressed through this company.
Name the company once.
Yeah.
HSBC 2000 in that example, 2000 to 2010, as one mention of the company name only.
Okay.
And then the job
Position.
titles and the dates underneath, maybe in a different, the company name's in bold.
Indented or something like that.
Yeah, and then suddenly it's, oh wow, you got promoted 2 or 3 times. You were at the same company for 10 years or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
Is a really good thing.
Yeah.
And you're at risk of not only denying that, but actually hindering yourself.
Right.
And I see that really regularly, and we change it for them. And another side note of having help in an agency is we'll spot those mistakes for you and do that. So that's definitely a common thing. And on that note, on the note of CVs, it's very common for people to just put a company name and leave it at that, and not write the company description.
So what does the company
What does it do? Just one short line.
Maybe somebody's never heard of the company you've got there.
They've never heard of half the other companies.
Right.
Not everyone's worked at Fortune 500 companies from the age of 22 onwards. Right? So most people have worked at a company that someone else hasn't heard of.
Got you.
Fact.
Yeah.
So a short line in italics underneath the company name, that's how we do it, of what the company does. Okay. B2B SaaS company in the field of e-commerce technology.
Got you.
And then again, you're catching a possibility that the company you're applying for is in the e-commerce technology, and that might not have come through properly.
Got you. Richard, thanks so much for your time. We really
Very
appreciate
welcome.
the information. Hopefully help somebody find a job here in Israel.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Very welcome. Cheers.